Welcome to the Generous Business Owner Podcast, where business owners gain inspiration and encouragement to live a legacy, not just leave one. And now your hosts, Jeff Thomas, Alan Barnhart, and Jeff Rutt.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's Generous Business Owner Podcast. My name is Jeff Thomas, and we've got a very special guest with us today, Chuck Welden, who runs a real estate business called Welden Field that is focused on business's mission. Now, he's also a co-founder of the Lion's Den in Birmingham, Alabama, which, if you haven't heard of the Lion's Den, you have now. It's kind of like a Shark Tank for all kind of Christian businesses and that sort of thing. We'll get into all of that, but Chuck, welcome to the program.
Glad to be here. Been looking forward to getting to talk to you.
This is so fun. Well, we always start, Chuck, with kind of where you grew up, what your family was like. Were you getting dragged into the family business? Were you doing some entrepreneurial things? Is there a faith component? What was going on in the Welden household when you were a kid?
A great question. My father went to the University of Alabama, met my mother there, went to law school, and I was born while they were in law school. So I have a brother and a sister. And I always remember my father being very entrepreneurial. He's a lawyer and also a real estate developer. So we learned a lot just by being around him, hanging out with him. But, they were not believers. And so never went to church except for my grandparents. They were both Baptists from Florida and from Wetumpka, Alabama. So we went to church with them in the summers and on vacation, but never went with my family. So that was a big thing for me. I became a believer at University of Alabama.
Oh, wow.
In a fraternity, which is like against all odds. I mean, a fraternity, University of Alabama, what are the statistical, it's a statistical aberration is what I would call it. And, but that's where God found me, was through Campus Crusade.
Wow.
And of course, like most folks back then, if you were a serious Christian, you were going to go on staff. You'd either be a Baptist preacher, a missionary, go join Campus Crusade. And so there's a little bit of a guilt thing about not doing it. So even after I went to law school, got my master's of law at New York University, I really struggled with whether I'd made the right choice, because I'm good at arguing. So I might as well go be I'm the modern day C.S. Lewis, of course. I mean, Keller was nothing compared to me. So I thought Keller didn't even exist back then.
True.
But I really thought that's what I should do. But somebody gave me a book, Doug Sherman's book, Your Work Matters to God. And for the first time I heard, hey, there is no hierarchical, there is no secular sacred divide. These are concepts I never even thought of. And as I read that book, it kind of helped me realize I could have an impact even in business. So that's kind of the beginning of my search for BAM.
When had you already been through law school? When did you read that?
Yeah, right after my tax. Went to law school, GW, George Washington, the New York University for tax school. And when I graduated from NYU, I came back and practiced in Birmingham for 9 months. I was a lawyer for 9 months. I was not a very good lawyer. I kept wanting to buy the clients. I thought, being a client was no fun. Being a lawyer was no fun. Being the client was more fun. So came back to the family business, but struggled, as I said, with whether I'd made the right choice as a believer. And what really mattered to God. So then I decided that my work could matter to God. So then I decided I'd love to take all my kids and my wife on mission trips. We went on about 20 mission trips around the world. I took each child on a mission trip by themselves. We went on multiple family trips, and my wife as well, Lauren. She's very serious about her faith. And during one of those trips, somebody from Stanford University was on the trip as well. He calls me up about 4 months after we got back to Birmingham and said, "Hey, Chuck, I need to do an internship." I said, "Well, I don't need an intern. You're just going to waste my time. And I'm not going to learn anything. I'm going to be babysitting you." He said, "Well, Chuck, I can research anything you want to research." I said, "I only have one thing. How can I use my banking, business, real estate, legal, construction skills to advance the kingdom?" I've been on multiple medical and Sunday school and VBS, and which were really not my skills. I can dig a hole, but it wasn't probably the best thing. I always wondered, was I a job taker or a job maker on those trips? I look up on the hill and see the Mexicans sitting out there thinking, they're probably watching us, knowing they're going to fix all of our mistakes next week and they didn't get paid this week. That's kind of where my mindset was.
Hmm.
And he discovered a thing called Business as Missions through Tom Sudik up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Tom had just been featured in the New York Times as the new kind of missionary. He and a couple other guys, Jerry Little in Romania, and a lady from the Middle East that her name was not allowed to be in the article. And that led me on a journey to meet all these people that were doing business as mission. And I realized for the first time, I can actually integrate my faith into my business and advance the kingdom. So that's kind of the quick story
Mm.
of how I got to here. And then Lions Den was birthed out of that.
Wow. Wow. All right. So take us back a little bit. Let's paint a little bit of
Okay.
a picture. All right. We got 9 months. So it sounds like you became a tax lawyer basically
Yeah, NYU. Yeah, it's the best
for
tax program in the world.
so you came back to Alabama and you get a firm. Was it in Birmingham?
It was one of the great firms in town, but I just wasn't very good at it. I shouldn't say that. I didn't enjoy it.
You didn't enjoy it. That's right. Well, you're not going to
No,
be too good at things you don't enjoy,
no,
probably.
I did not enjoy it.
So okay, and then you say now who all's in the family business at that point? Give us a little history about the.
Okay, yeah, what happened was in 1977, my father, Charles Weldon, my uncle, Edgar Weldon, and Pete Field, hence the name Weldon Field. We're very creative, we're very strong on marketing. Weldon Field was such an easy name to come up with. And they had started the company. They were in the multifamily, both affordable and market rate multifamily.
Okay.
I came back and worked with them in 1986, so a year or so after I got out of law school and all that.
Well, it hadn't been going that long, not even 10 years, really.
Yeah, well, that's about, yeah, it'd been going about 10 or 15. Yeah, yeah, really, only about 10 years. That's right.
Okay.
But they had all come out of HUD. They worked at HUD. One was in the
Oh,
mortgage business at HUD, Department of Housing and Urban Development,
yeah.
at an office in Birmingham. Mr. Field ran the mortgage division here. My father ran the legal division in Birmingham. And one day they woke up and said, the guys sitting across the table from us are making 4 times more than we are, and we know more than they do. So they said, I want to get into private practice. I want to jump over there. And they want to get into private practice. They made a deal. Whoever left first, the other person would support financially until they made it. And then the other person would leave HUD and they would create 2 or 3 companies. And that's the genesis of Weldon Fields, the property management. We had a mortgage operation, we had a small law firm. All those were designed to take advantage of the skill set they had learned by working at Department of Housing and Urban Development in the multifamily office. So that's the
Wow.
genesis.
Not many people have the guts to kind of take that risk the way they did
I,
that.
I was very impressed. Yeah.
I am too. I think
My
that's
father tried to teach us risk like that. He would pay us for grades. And so you remember the old Reader's Digest, the TV guide. You remember the
oh
TV
yeah, oh
guide?
yeah.
Let's just say that I get $10 an A. Just make up a number.
Right.
So I had all A's generally. So he'd put $60 in the TV guide. But in another page, he'd put no $1. Another page, he'd put $200. And he wanted us to learn what risk we would take in life.
Hmm.
And so we could either not play the game or we could risk the game. And so he purposely tried to teach us risk during our high school days.
Wow. Wow, that's cool. Okay, so you come back well now, and you said a similar thing to kind of the way you described your dad and his partner's deal, where they were kind of on the other side of the service side of the fence, if you will, I guess
Yeah,
government
the
side.
government side. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you come over. Now, I might be ahead of this a little bit, but when I think government and real estate, and we're getting into the late 80s, I'm thinking about the kind of banking crisis that sort of took place. Did that have some effect on your business?
Well, it did, but there was a banking crisis with the RTC days,
Yeah,
but it was wonderful for us because we happened to be in a good position
I would
financially.
think.
And so we went and bought lots of loans from the government. If somebody said, when fast forward to 2008, where I felt pretty stupid and felt like everything I'd done was wrong, and then I look back to the RTC days thinking I was a genius, somebody said, Chuck, you weren't as smart as you thought you were. You're not as dumb as you think you are. And that is so true.
That is, I think we need to maybe camp on. I'd like to camp on that just for a minute because we hear from listeners of this podcast that some of their favorite stories are the setback stories because nobody's up and to the right.
Oh, no, no,
You're
no, no.
right. It's just not true. We've all made stupid decisions. Like when we started Arcos, I told our team, I said, look, I'm 48 starting this thing. I said, I've already made 80% of the mistakes you could. Let's make the other 20 together, okay? But
Quick, do it
I'm gonna
quick.
try not to make the same 80.
Yes, that's right.
And some of the things have gone right. I appreciate the humility of like because I for the frequent listeners of the podcast, they've heard my story about working for Arthur Anderson during the RTC. They sent me to DC, and I was the guy in the poly blend $100 suit 2 for 1. Okay,
Yes,
that was selling hundreds of millions of dollars of real estate for pennies on the dollar to people like you who are
yes,
walking out slow motion. I still remember in better suits than I had, high-fiving each other in my
yeah.
head. It's in slow motion. Like, and I remember thinking, I am on the wrong side of this transaction.
You probably
Yeah,
were.
I was 100% was, but I was right out of college. I didn't know any different. So anyway, it is fascinating how you, God brings opportunities
Yeah.
and He gives you the ability to take care of it. Sometimes now you had, I'm sure, a much bigger business in 2008, but how did you get through that period? Because that was rough for almost everybody.
It was terrible. We had probably 13 to 15 active deals, both in single family, multifamily, and land development. And we thought it was a very good chance we would just go out of business.
Yeah.
We kept servicing all the debt out of internal capital. And I hate to say it's a God thing because that's usually what Auburn people say. And I'm an Alabama fan. But uh, all of a sudden we get thrown. My father goes to a meeting with me and offers the number two guy at the bank, let's say 30 cents on the dollar for
Yeah.
all the loans. My father's going to buy the loans back.
Yeah.
And the guy goes, no, I want 35 cents. And my father said, no. We ended up buying it back for like 28 or 31, somewhere in that same range.
Yeah.
3 years later, we ended up buying it back. And then my father charged me a pretty good interest rate. He made money and we saved ourselves, our skin, our hide.
Okay.
And
So he
some of
did
the,
it kind of like personally. Is that what you're
he,
saying?
he and Mr. Field and my
Yeah.
uncle did it
Yeah.
together. And so they just saved us. And some of the investors got some of their money back, not all of it, but some. And it was not a pretty picture though. It was very scary. It was very scary.
It was. I mean, I've got friends that were in the heck, you got more of them than I do in the real estate business, but I remember them talking about they didn't have the money.
yeah,
Uh, and and they talked about just what saved them, frankly, was continuing humble communication.
yeah,
That we're not disappearing, we're not trying to run from it.
yeah,
So how does that, you know what I mean? Like those relationships and the way you deal with, you know what I mean? Even if when you don't have the fun, you didn't have guys have enough fun to do all of it. Like,
no,
can you speak to
no,
the
no,
importance of those relationships and the way you behave in those things?
absolutely. In fact, in the end, the bank gave us a letter thanking us for how we handled it so that we could show future lenders to explain what had happened during the last 7 years.
Mm.
Because a lot of people get blackballed. Once you gave
Yes.
loans back, you had a hard time getting lenders to give you other future lenders to do business with you. But our bank actually gave us a letter saying these guys handled it very professionally.
Mm.
They helped us maximize. And there was a relationship. We've done business with that bank for 20, 30 years. So we've been friends with not the president, but the vice presidents and heads of real estate and all that. So we wanted to do the right thing. We just couldn't afford to pay them all the money back. Well, they realized they could sell it to us at a higher price than they could sell it to a third party because
Ah.
we had a guarantee. So if the third party was going to pay 18 cents, and these are all made up numbers,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we were glad to pay 30 cents and being in control of our own guarantee, our own destiny. So that's really what happened. We paid more than what your other clients would have paid.
I just think I've heard too many of these stories about, frankly, when the inevitable, I hate to say it, the inevitable downturn comes of some sort or struggle of some sort, where none of us are getting out of this
Yeah.
life without some kind of pain, and especially mostly business owners listen to this. Like, how do you get through those rough times? I just think obviously praying like crazy, but then acting honorably
Yes.
and not hiding under the desk and just kind of hitting it head on and humbly dealing with whatever the issue is. And honestly, anyway, it's just, I don't know. There's definitely a correlation with the people
It,
that handle it in a certain way, and
have
those
you
guys will
interviewed Pete
become,
Oakes?
yeah.
His story about dealing with the banker that he had gotten across, excuse me, the guy he got cross with, and how he humbly went in and said, "I need your forgiveness." I mean, that's one of the great stories I've ever
I mean,
heard.
I think he got on his knees in front of the
He did.
banker, and
He did.
that's one of the episodes. Look up Pete Oakes,
Yeah.
OCHS, and he told that story, and it got him through it, and
But I do agree there's some ingredients you'll see over and over again. It's not none, and none of which are perfect. We're not perfectly humble.
oh no,
We're not perfectly kind. We're not perfectly fair. But there is a desire. If you have a desire to be fair, humble, work hard, put the lender first, put your investors first. I don't ever believe in prosperity gospel. Don't
right,
like Joel Osteen or any of that stuff.
no.
But I do believe there are some ingredients that together increase your odds of surviving and actually being a good witness. And that's really part of it is what would be a good witness for Christ.
Yeah. Before we even, and we'll get into this, like how you do ministry within your apartment complexes and this sort of thing. Before you even get to that, it's it's kind of back to those basics, like you're talking about. But I think it's what I always say is there's something about, we're lucky to live in a capitalistic society where if you're a servant leader and put your customer first, those just happen to be biblical
That's
principles.
right.
It tends to go well. Doesn't guarantee it. Just
Yes,
because you believe in Jesus doesn't mean you're gonna and treat people well. Bad thing, 08s can still happen and you can still go under.
exactly. Yeah.
But
Well said.
but but in general, if you keep fighting and get
Yeah.
back up off the mat, generally putting other people first, even if you're not a believer, that tends to work in business in a capitalistic society that
I,
rewards
I
service.
would go even further, and I know you believe this.
Yeah.
If you do your business in a Christian, ethical way,
Yeah.
it's an unfair advantage.
Right.
It's an unfair advantage over time. I don't saying it always will be good every day, but overall, it's an unfair advantage.
Yeah, it's like the book Lead Like Jesus or whatever the author said. He said, "Oh, when he became a believer, he'd written all these business books, and he said, when I became a follower of Jesus, I realized all those business books I wrote were just biblical principles.
Exactly. Yeah. Truth is
All
truth.
all the good ideas were actually in there, you know."
Good point.
So okay, but let's get into the practical because I know there's some people running on the treadmill thinking about this, like, how do I implement this stuff into my business? So now you have kind of a cool with the real estate side anyway. Maybe there's some other, but how do you use the business as ministry? You said you hired this researcher to come in. Okay, how do I do this? What were some of the things maybe they came up with or that you've
Yeah.
implemented over the years?
Yeah. That intern discovered several people in the business's mission movement: Bill Joe, Tom Sudik, Al Caperna, Sovereigns, all those big guys that are household names we learned over the last 20 years. So we invested in 40 to 50 businesses, mission companies around the world in 5 continents. Bees in Zimbabwe, dairy farm in Moldova,
Oh, you would invest.
yeah, a
So
Christian
yeah.
bookstore in Thailand. I mean, blueberries in South Africa. I Can Only Imagine movie, Woodlawn movie, multiple movies. So those are all we did 40 or 50 investments, and a group of people in Birmingham and other close friends have kind of come together and invested together. Uh, that led us to understand best practices, to see what worked and what didn't work. As you
That's a good
imagine,
point.
private equity in overseas has a even less success rate than private equity in America.
Hmm.
And so private equity venture capital is always risky.
Yeah.
And we learned from those. We were on boards. We were helping to shape those companies, and we were also shaped by watching what we saw in those
Hmm.
companies as well. And one day we said, the cobbler's kids have no shoes.
Oh, that's interesting.
I mean, what am I doing going owning a beehive? I mean, thousands of beehives in Zambia, as opposed to doing something in real estate in
Right. So you
Birmingham.
were investing in it, not so much inside your own deal. That's
No,
so
we were
interesting.
we were still investing in our own deals.
No, I
It
know,
was
but missionally.
oh, mission, yes,
Yeah, yeah,
missionally,
yeah, yeah,
we
yeah.
were doing more of our mission. But isn't that true? It's
So
always
true.
easy to share
So
with it.
true.
It's so easy to share with the guy on the airplane I'll never see again than my CFO. And my CFO knows how
Right,
bad of a
right.
guy I
And
really
this
am.
is second generation. The thing's
Yes,
already got a culture that maybe you don't want
it's
to mess
you're
with.
it. That's it. That's it. And so one day we said the cobbler's kid have no shoes. What hypocrites are we? How stupid are we? And we said we'll keep doing that because we love private equity, love alternative investments. Had done a bunch of that secularly. But then we said, what if we took our, and actually 4 people came to me, Henry Kastner, Tom Phillips, the McClellan Foundation, 3 or 4 people talked to me and said, hey, not many people are doing it in multifamily. Why don't y'all consider that? So we created a fund about 7 years ago and raised some money. Then we did another fund last year and raised some more money. We've bought 7 or 8 properties. And in those properties, think about this is what we do. Think of Young Life. We basically put 4 to 5 people living on site. They give us 10 hours a week and we give them a rent discount. And our project is their fishing pond. So I'd interview you, Jeff, and say, Jeff, you're a great Christian. Are you willing to really commit to these 200 residents here? That I don't care if you still do some other things, but this has got to be your priority. After your family, is this your priority for where you want to do ministry? We
Mm.
want you to love on these people. We want you to take care of their social needs, but we're unapologetically Christian. We want it to lead to the potential of a gospel conversation. And if all you ever can do is just make the world a better place, this is the wrong place to come. Because we believe we live in 2 tensions in this world. This is what Welden Field believes. One tension is nobody cares how much you know till they know how much you care. But the other tension is better to go to heaven on an empty stomach than to hell on a full stomach. And so we take those 2 tensions, and that's how we try to, in these companies, or in several companies, but particularly the multifamily real estate funds, we've had 80 people come to Christ. That's only by God. I mean, that's by
Wow.
God's blessing. And so we treat that like a business. We have a business plan and a ministry plan with KPIs and inputs and outputs. And we say you don't treasure what you don't measure. We measure everything. And then we rely on God to show us how we can change and how we can evolve, how we can modify. But when somebody tells me in a meeting, God's in everything we do, I just go, malarkey. You're not doing anything then. Because if you really cared about it, everybody knows what their golf game was last week. Everybody knows how they did in tennis. They know how many times they had sex last week. They know all these facts. But if you ask them about what they do ministry wise, it's like, oh, God's in everything we do. I just think that's a stupid answer. And I know I'm weird. I get it. We're weird. But we think you don't treasure what you don't measure. You don't treasure what you don't measure.
Yeah.
Sorry about that long answer. That's not
No,
really
I like it. I mean, so okay, now you got a lot of apartments. You can share as much as or as little as you want about how many apartments you got. So give us just a little bit of a sense of this.
we manage about 20,000 apartments. We've developed and redeveloped over 10,000 apartments. We have a staff of about 850 people in 13 states. So we view the residents as well as our employees as being relationships that God has asked us to steward. And so we're developing plans within both SPM, which is the management company, as well as the properties that we own within the fund. We call it the Welden Field Businesses Mission Real Estate Fund. And we're trying to steward those relationships. So we have a great team, and not everybody's a Christian. We don't want everybody to be a Christian. We want to have the best employees possible. And we will also hope that many of them will see what we do over time and elect to become Christians or follow that faith.
What do you do internally for the employees? How does that manifest itself culturally?
We're doing well, first of all, the fund has been around about 7 years. Internally at SPM, only about 3 years.
Okay.
So it's more new. We are doing Bible studies. We're doing projects around town or projects in the community. And we just had a meeting last week for 2 hours with 6 of us to say, okay, we've now got some Bible studies started. We've now had some projects going on. What's the next thing we do? So we're looking to the future. And we went on several road trips. We went to see Al Caperna in Ohio. We went to see Alan Barnhart in Memphis, who I'm on his board, Tom Phillips in Memphis, First Southern, and those guys up in Stanford, Kentucky. We're going to go see Thompson Thrift next week. I think Paul was on your show
He's amazing.
because Paul, it's funny. Paul and I realized from being at a couple of meetings where we spoke, they're more focused on the employee side and not the resident side.
Right.
We're more focused on the resident side and less on the employee side.
True.
We cannot wait to get the room together to share best practices on the other side.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to learn so much from Paul. I mean, I can't wait to go see Paul and his team.
Yeah.
We're going up there in 2 weeks to Indianapolis.
Great example. And, I was talking, I know they do a lot with, I think it's ICM, and we've got another great friend who I think inspired them doing those things.
Right.
Anyway, it's really, that's exactly what we're trying to do here is give people examples of things you can do. And and we're not trying to say that any of us have all of the answers. That's one thing I like that what you're saying is like, hey, we're still learning and going to see other people and what they're doing and learning from them, and maybe we got a little something for them. And so I think it's iron sharpens iron
Yes.
continually in this world. And have you seen a trend over these 20 years that you've been trying to do it this way of this becoming a little more accessible? I don't know about mainstream. That might be a little
Right.
much, but have you seen a trend toward more people understanding this sort of that you're in ministry does not mean you have to be employed by a church,
Absolutely. I mean, let's just take Hope, which is really a charity,
Right.
but it has added business components now within the fund where you can make small returns. So I think there's so many places, whether it be Apartment Life, Hope, Sovereigns, the McClellan Foundation. And there's so many of y'all that have been carrying the mantle, and people are watching. I think the awareness that you can actually take your company or take your investments and align it with your beliefs. I mean, think about what exists today that did not exist 10 years. Sovereign's been around 12 years. Eversource in Birmingham, one is sent in Birmingham, are both wealth advisors. They've only been around 4 or 5 years, and together they got $7 or $8 billion. You got so many groups. I mean, even Thompson Thrift, what they're doing today compared to what they were doing 10 years ago, it's not even the same world. There are so many people out there that are talking about it and sharing, and they're very open-handed. Nobody has limited resource mentality. This is a cow. God owns a cow on 1,000 hills. And I walked into a dozen places, and I felt like when I left, everybody told me everything. There was no secrets.
Right.
They weren't. Coca-Cola Consolidated. Have you interviewed Mark Whitaker yet with Tea Factor?
No, we got to get that done. Yeah.
You know what they do? I mean, what they do, I mean, they're the ones that say, guys, the liberals have been throwing these fastballs, pushing you off the plate, and we're telling you can sit on that plate and hit all the home runs you want to hit. You do not have to leave the plate and be pushed off the plate with fastballs. So T Factor is incredible. Mark and Mr. Harrison have done so much. So yes, my point to you would be there are household names that did not exist, but they're still really household in a very small community. But the community is growing. The average business guy still doesn't know what a donor advised fund is, much less what BAM is. But I see both of them growing.
True. I think the movement is taking off, and hopefully it's in some kind of S curve.
I think it is.
Takes a while to get going, but now hopefully we're getting into that S curve. So one thing that I think, just to go back to, that I think is very interesting, and I'm going to guess was a challenge for you, but I'd love to hear how you handle it, because I know, you're sort of second generation in this business,
Right.
and obviously it was, hadn't been around forever when you got into it. So I know you've had a lot to do with the growth of it, but you're talking about investing in these other businesses, and sometimes talking to your own CFO about it is harder. Like with our own family members, a lot of
Same
times it's
thing.
harder. I mean, so I know there's some people listening in the car to this that are like, man, I'm in the business. My, generation ahead started, and, maybe they weren't believers or not as strong. And I'd really like to take the business in this direction, but I'm going to be stepping on some toes. I already maybe floated it a little bit and maybe got squished a little bit. So, what's some advice you have for maybe that person?
Well, two lines of advice on this. One is we used to always tell people when we come back from missions trips, don't go home to your wife saying we're selling everything and moving to Zimbabwe. That's just not good advice.
Right.
Come home, absorb it, be strategic about it, pray and see what God really
Yeah.
wants you to do. Well, don't just assume by default you're supposed to go 0 to 60. So I
Right.
will always tell people, I love the idea you want to do this, but you got to still be honoring to the people who started the company, the people who have been there before you were. Go slow. I think you have to go in moderation. I don't say that you have to delay it, but you do need to be careful about your speed that you go. Because if you leave too many people off the bus as you're going, it just won't work. You've got to have the right buy-in, and that requires, I think, experience. I think it requires people to see your heart and experience it. I think just talking about it is not the same as going on a trip, going to a meeting, going to another company, and go see what other people are doing in their businesses. That's why I'm sorry if I'm saying Sovereigns too much, but Sovereigns does road trips where even if you're not going to invest with them, they'll let you come on road trips to see some of these operators, and all of a sudden you're an operator thinking, I can do that. I now get it. I mean, I got to sit down and talk to the guy, and he told me what he was doing. So I think those kind of things are important.
Yeah, you can baby steps, baby
Baby
steps.
stuff. But the second thing that we've come up with a list of 4 things, and this may be appropriate now or maybe appropriate later in the conversation, but people will say, how can I do that at my company?
Mm-hmm.
And we've come up with 4 things that we tell everybody. First is you got to figure out what your goal and your assignment is. Everybody's goal and assignment is unique. My assignment is not your assignment. Now we can talk about what kind of assignments are out there. We can help you develop your assignment, but your assignment will be unique to you. Then secondly, what resources are you willing to commit to accomplishing?
Yes.
If you told me you had 1,000 employees, you want to reach 1,000 employees, you're going to spend $10,000, I'd say,
Not enough.
let's start with the assignment again. Yeah.
Right.
And these things are iterative, kind of like F9 on the old computers. If they don't line up, it doesn't work. So what's your assignment? What resources are you willing to commit to it? And who's responsible? Who's being judged by it? Who's being measured by it? They don't even necessarily have to be full time, Jeff, but what
Right.
they have to be is measured
Own it.
and own it. And what we say when me and my son, John Grady, and some of the other business guys tried to do it, it was number one on our list. By the time 9 o'clock came, it was number 5 because
Exactly.
we had a water leak, we had a storm somewhere, somebody fell,
Yeah.
a lender is called, whatever it is, and the next day
Didn't get done.
it doesn't get done. It doesn't get done the next day or the next
Exactly.
tyranny of the urgent. So
Exactly.
somebody has to be responsible. And fourthly, we say whoever it is that's doing it has to have access to the decision maker.
Uh-huh.
Ministry's messy. We've had several situations where ministry was bad. Somebody did something wrong, and we had to make decisions quickly. And then we think you come back and you measure how it went, and you make changes, you modify, no different than your sales process. If you don't have sales and your profit's low, you sit down and look at your KPIs. We think you do the same thing here. And so I think anybody can really say, this is my missional potential. These are the number of times where people far from God intersect with my team members that are close to God, and let's create a pathway for them to be exposed to the gospel and be intentional. So that's kind of.
Wait, now, clarify number 4 for me. First, uh,
So
what's your
first one was a
unique goal
goal
and
and assignment,
assignment?
resources,
What
who's
resources? Who's
responsible.
responsible? And then access decision maker. Unpack that just a little bit.
Well, back to ministry's messy. Things are going to happen. Somebody's going to do something wrong. They're going to do something that's bad for business.
Okay.
They're going to do something unchristian. And then all of a sudden you have 8 non-Christians over here in the other part of the company saying, yeah, I told you that's who they were. That's exactly who they are. They don't like us. They don't love us. And so you've got to have someone that's accessible to make real life, real time decisions. If all of a sudden I think I'm so important, I can't meet with Randy Wilson and Colin Crawley, who are our 2 chief spiritual officers. If they don't have access to me, We had one of our people made a very, very bad moral decision, and we had to fire them.
Hmm.
And that had to be done that day. If I wasn't available, it could have undermined and cost our whole team.
You got to have that feedback loop. That one sounds like
That's it.
I know this is all the voice of
You
experience,
said it
but
better
that
than I
one
did.
really sounds like the
I'm
voice.
going to change that to feedback loop because that's really a better word. You changed my mind.
Yeah, feedback loop because hey, great. Hey, we already have the project. Go out. Here are the KPIs. All right, knock yourself out. Great. Off my checklist.
Yep.
And if they can't come back and go, woo, we blew that one up, it's just like any other strategic thing, right? Any
You're
other
exactly
major
right.
strategic thing, like you gotta be able to come back, get inside the leadership group and adjust. That's
Yep.
so,
That's it.
oh boy, that's good. And that's not intuitive. Like that's the voice of experience, like going out there and doing that stuff. Let me ask you this, switching gears slightly, but I'm it's really helpful on like somebody taking over the business that somebody else started, or they
Right.
bought it, or dad and uncle, whatever. Um, but I'm also thinking because you've done so much of this Lion's Den kind of Shark Tank kind of thing. I'm also thinking about kind of probably my kids, your kids' age, sort of the young entrepreneurs, who are strong believers. Like some of
Mhm.
these people in their 20s, maybe early 30s. I mean, they're even late. They're unbelievably, and they're entrepreneurial and they want to do things in a kingdom way, and they can't really. They have ideas about starting a business or getting one going or doing things in a kingdom way. How would you encourage maybe a young entrepreneur, about maybe there is some tailwind for them also in
Yes.
this community?
And we call those on ramps because
On ramps, yeah.
what happens is the delay. One of my partners, Harry Clemens, used to say the delay between inspiration and implementation can only lead to frustration.
So true.
So if you give people ideas about how to do something, but there's not on ramps or methods for them to sharpen their skills, get involved, roll their sleeves up, etc., it can be frustrating. It can actually run counter to the movement.
True.
So that was part of the birth of Lions Den. The idea was, by having Lions Den, we have a community of 15 or 20 people in Birmingham, plus younger people that join us as well from time to time, is we vet the companies that are can present basically like a Shark Tank event for Christian companies. We do due diligence on them ahead of time. We coach them on the financial and spiritual side. So we have young private equity guy that's helping us. I'm not gonna say the
Mm.
names. So I don't know if they want to be
No, that's
associated with
okay.
me.
No, that's
They may
good.
not. Nobody really wants to be associated with me, so I'm always careful about mentioning their names. But we have several young guys and girls that want to be involved, and they come to our meetings to help be part of the vetting of the teams. Now, some of them we've even hired, or some of them we've supported when they left or invested in businesses that they went to. There's a group called AIN, Ambassadors Investment. It's Will Thomas's group in Texas, Dallas,
Mhm.
kind of investment club for Christians, and they have interns that are graduated working for firms in town that help do the investment vetting for these companies. So there's lots of different things you can do out there. We can associate with other people. Then we've started 2 or 3 companies, and then we hired young people to come run those companies.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we're all the time
I just
wanting
think
to
there is a growing ecosystem to be helpful to
absolutely.
those folks. Yeah, that's great. Well, this is so much fun, Chuck. As we wrap up, and you've already given a lot of practical tips, including those 4 things, but I'm just thinking, I'm thinking of some 40-ish-year-old entrepreneur where the business is going pretty well, and they're thinking, God's whispering in their ear, do I go this wide path to consumption for myself and keep buying toys? Or I do a narrow path of God's whispering me to do something differently. But golly, where do I start? What's just some practical tip? It could be a repeat of whatever or something new that comes to mind uh, that they could do tomorrow just to take one step in the right direction.
Yeah, I probably have 15 or 20 breakfasts a year with people under 40 on this very issue.
Mm.
I'd say at least 2/3 of them, I'll tell them to stay where they are. have impact there, and at least get to the point where you can have your own business. If you really want to leave, become so proficient and so good at what you're doing that you can start your own business with your own DNA to start with. I do tell some people that they're in an environment that's probably not healthy, and it may not be the best thing for them, or for their family even. But I think for young folks, I would say, get good at what you're doing. Yeah. Because it's such the more marketable you are, the better you can sell yourself to investors or to partners or to other business folks that will back you. So get good. And these guys that are not good at anything and come talk to us, those conversations just don't last very long.
Right.
But somebody who's proficient, he's got a business plan, we can sit down and talk about it and argue about it and have a friendly debate. And I think also for those folks that own their own company is you can always do more. You look back and realize how little we did. And we were scared, or we thought that ministry was bad for business. It would run off our investors. It would run off our business partners. If you do it in a Christ-like way, I think that even those who are not Christians are attracted to the fact that we love people and we care about them. And we want them to, I hate the word flourish, but I'm going to use it today, that we want to see them flourish. And people would accept that. Investors like to see that. So I think that's another piece of it.
I think that's great. Just kind of like you said, with the 0 to 60, you don't have to go to 60. Just try some little things. I mean, there's a million suggestions. You've had some on this podcast. We have them on almost every podcast. That's what we're trying to do, is give you a million different examples of things people are doing, so you can pluck the things. God will ring the bell for you on, hey, I should try that one.
And like to say, you can plug in interning, you can plug into other companies,
right?
And volunteer.
Learn from other people inside the industry, maybe.
Yes, all that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, Chuck, this has been a real joy, man. Thanks for joining us this week.
Oh, I enjoyed it. Hopefully you won't have to edit too much.
No problem. And thanks, everybody, for joining us on this week's Generous Business Owner Podcast. Share it with a friend, subscribe. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Generous Business Owner Podcast with Jeff Thomas, Alan Barnhart, and Jeff Rutt. Make sure to follow the podcast so you don't miss an episode. You can find the guest contact information in the show notes. Stay tuned for the next episode.